Hi everyone, it's February 14th, which means it's Valentine's Day. Not a holiday that I particularly care about, but happy Valentine's Day nonetheless. Valentine's Day is somewhat popular in Japan, I'd say, though the traditions are a little bit different. So here on Valentine's Day, women give men chocolate, and then next month, on the 14th, so a month from now, the men will give chocolate to all the women who have given them chocolate. So it's a little different, right, than America, but still kind of interesting. So you're probably wondering what the deal is with this silly thing on my head, and also with this Pikachu. I'll explain that in just a moment. But first, let me say happy birthday to Aunt Elaine. Your birthday was this past Friday. So happy birthday. I hope it was a great day for you. Still thinking about you a lot here in Japan, obviously. And yeah, so happy birthday. So many things to ramble about. So many things have happened recently. So first, 2 weeks ago, I had a kindergarten lesson. It was Setsubun, which is a Japanese holiday, basically where you drive out all of the bad spirits and the oni, and you bring in luck. And so that's where I got this thing. This is actually supposed to be an oni. We had a little Setsubun celebration where we'd wear hats and like oni, and then the other students would run around throwing beans at us. Yes, beans. Fukumame, if I'm not mistaken, which are like lucky beans. And so that's the tradition. You throw beans at the oni to drive them away, and then you invite good luck into your home and your body and all that sort of thing. I was sick at the time, so I'm running around and all these kids are chasing me and stuff and throwing beans at me, and I felt like my lungs were gonna explode. So it could have been better, I'm not gonna lie, but it was still a lot of fun. So this is my oni hat for Setsubun. Now, what other goings on? So yesterday I was actually at a Japanese wedding, believe it or not. I want to give more details, but unfortunately I have some reasons for why I'm not going to show too many pictures or drop any names or anything like that. But I was asked to go, and I said, why the hell not? It just seemed like another interesting experience, and I wanted to see how it was going to be different from weddings in the U.S. So this is the wedding program. You can see it says, in English, it says, "Our Wedding Celebration," and then on the inside it's got a lot of interesting, it's got a profile of the two people getting married. I did a little research, and apparently there are Japanese weddings come in sort of 3 flavors predominantly. You have Western style weddings, which is the kind of wedding that I was at. You have traditional Shinto weddings, which would take place at a temple, a shrine. And then you also have sort of like more of like a civil ceremony, where it's like, I guess it would be the same as in the U.S., where you just have a government official sort of preside over the wedding, that sort of thing. But anyway, so I went to a Western style wedding. We weren't at a church per se, but there was, we were at like a wedding. It was called like the Azure Wedding Villa or something like that. And so one of the areas in the wedding venue was like a little church type thing, right? It had like pews and whatnot, and they had a pastor or a reverend or whatever he is, who was an old white dude, which I thought was really funny. He did the service in Japanese. So I could only follow a little bit of it. But you know, there was definitely some Jesus-y stuff in there, which is really interesting because, to my knowledge, the two individuals getting married, neither of them was actually a Christian. You know, like I said, Western style weddings are kind of popular. Even though most people are not Christian, they'll still have sort of like a pastor and a Christian ceremony, which I think is really interesting. Why do they do it if they're not religious? Honestly, the only answer I could come up with is it's just fashionable. Like it's sort of like it's just a fashionable thing to do. It really ties in with the amount of, you know, Western culture that Japan has borrowed. You know, there's like English everywhere, even though like nobody in this country speaks English. And I think that's really interesting from my perspective. And I think any American should really find that interesting because America is such a hodgepodge of different cultures and that sort of thing. So it's really interesting that they've borrowed this aspect of the culture. They have a Christian religious ceremony, even though nobody's Christian, nobody believes in Jesus or anything like that. So they had this Western style ceremony, but there was no best man, and there was no bridesmaids or anything like that. So that was sort of interesting. They didn't take that aspect of the wedding, I guess. So basically, the wedding started off with there was maybe like half an hour where people were just showing up, and there were no like appetizers or there were some drinks. I think there was like coffee, tea, apple juice, stuff like that, but no like appetizers or something that you would expect in like a large American wedding. So after that, after about half an hour, when all the guests had shown up and that sort of thing, 20 minutes or so, we went to the little chapel sort of thing, and they had the ceremony. Another interesting thing about the ceremony was there was singing, right? They had some sort of hymn. This was the program for the wedding ceremony, and you can see there's musical notation, and there's Japanese, and it's like a Christian hymn, I guess, that has been translated into Japanese. So that was kind of interesting. So everybody just started singing at one point. The reverend was like, "All right, so it's time for number 312, hymn number 312 or whatever," and everyone just started singing. Again, nobody's Christian, but they've done this, which I think is kind of cool. So after the ceremony, we went outside, and everyone sort of got like like flower petals and stuff, and we were like throwing them at the bride and groom, and then we took like a big group photo with everybody, and then after that we went to sort of the wedding reception. What would be the equivalent of the wedding reception in America. And so there were some speeches, some people gave speeches, as you might expect, and there was a lot of food and a lot of drinking, and it was great. We had dinner, which was a bunch of different courses, and it was basically just people chit-chatting and stuff like that. And in Japanese style, people would, you know, come over and like pour drinks for you, and you'd chit-chat, and like I went and poured a drink for the groom and was chit-chatting with him and stuff. And honestly, it was one of those moments where like I really wish my Japanese was a lot better. And this happens to me all the time, but like I really wish my Japanese was a lot better so I could have talked with more people. So I think that portion probably lasted about 2 hours. Parties always seem to last 2 hours here. So I think that was about 2 hours or so, and then afterwards there was a second party. Now Japanese celebrations in like big parties and that sort of things, they always have like multiple stages, right? So this is literally, the second party is literally called the Nijikai. So like the second, so second party. So there are like Nijikai and Sanjikai. So they have different stages as the day progresses. The second party, a lot of people left after the initial sort of reception type thing. And so the second party was mostly just younger friends of the bride and groom, and there were like some games, we played bingo, and that's where I won this giant inflatable Pikachu head. It was like a performance by the friends of the groom or the friends of the bride. So that was it was like a skit or a play or something, like a mini play. It was interesting. But I will say throughout the first party and the second party, there was a very conspicuous lack of dancing. Right? I feel like that's a hallmark of American weddings, right? You get people start to dance at some point, after everybody's had all the food. It's like, it's time to dance. And there was no dancing at the Japanese wedding. I was asking, and apparently that is sort of normal. So instead of dancing, they play like games and have like mini performances and stuff like that. And then after that, it was, again, people sort of started going their separate ways, and I went out with some other people that I knew, and we had our third party where the bride and groom were not in attendance, and it was just us at like a bar or something like that. And so that's typically how Japanese sort of celebrations go, right? One more interesting thing about the wedding was there was a gift bag, right? So all the guests got this gift bag, which was really, really interesting. Inside there was like a small cake and like there was like some chocolate, and there's actually this this is a Tiffany's box with some glasses in it. So like drinking glasses. Also in Japan, another interesting thing about Japanese weddings is apparently people don't give gifts of things. These are the glasses. Not that you can see it very well, but anyways, people don't give gifts in the form of things, which I think is common at American weddings. Instead, people give money, and they give. I was doing research on that, and the sums can be very great, it seems, depending on your relationship with the bride and groom. So yeah, the sum varies, and you give them in an envelope, a special envelope called a shugi bukuro. I think I'm saying that correctly. Shugi bukuro, and it's a really ornate envelope, and that was sort of interesting. But yeah, everyone, there was like when we first got to the wedding venue, everyone gave their shugi bukuro to the people who were like signing people in. I don't know. So that's what's been going on recently. Setsubun, Valentine's, people's birthdays, the wedding. Yeah, so that's it. Been having a good time. February's been a pretty fun month, pretty interesting month so far. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye bye. Oni wa soto. Oni wa soto. What's this? Oni wa soto.